Hi, everybody. Well, I'm just modifying here the so that everybody can watch this video, editing the privacy, and it's done. Okay, well, thank you everybody for watching this video. I just recorded recently a video in Spanish talking about this. And the topic of this video is unified history. So, what would be the difference in between unifying history and unified history? Well, it can be very obvious. However, it leads to a deep meaning that shows to us an unconscious program deep within deep within humanity. How is this? For instance, when we think that we are here to learn, that is correct from a specific perspective. If we say that we are here to remember, it's because we are assuming that we already know. We are just in the path of the reminiscence. And this is a very different thing, and it will lead to a very different result. How come? When we think that we are not yet and that we are here to be, that, well, not to be, that we are here in order to get somewhere and to integrate things within, it's part of the process of evolution. However, when we are embodying an omnivision, a unified consciousness, is because we are assuming that we already are and that we have always been. However, we just forgot it. I call it the incurrent amnesia because it leads us to believe that we are something different that we truly are. And therefore, that will lead to imprecise outcomes that will take us to move on a reality that instead of bringing us together is bringing us separate, because the source to the perspective is distorted by thinking that we are not. We are here to get to be. This is very different than we are, and we are here to remember, to bring our members together, our parts together, in order to be and to know that we have always been and that we are just remembering it. And that will lead us to very important codes that I have been mentioning for a while now, that are very connected to Osiris, for instance, and the Osiris code, as I call it, because how he was dismembered by his brother Set, as the myth recalls. This is talking about a very essential thing, and it is that we are bringing our members together. We are bringing our parts together in order to have this renaissance, in order to have this rebirth as a cosmic race. So this aspect about being a cosmic race or being a human and unifying history, how is all of this related? Well, when we assume ourselves a connected universe from within to without, knowing that everything is connected and that what I do here will have an impact there, even though that here and there can seem perfectly disconnected, well, it's not. Like, for instance, how can what I do here in Mexico will have an impact in China, to set an example? Well, in the ancient civilizations, they knew everything was connected and that everything is connected. Therefore, the responsibility of each choice and how was everything being done would be in order to generate an impact in another continent, in another country, in another piece of land, crossing the sea. And that's why the impeccability of the webs of the grid, it was so accurate, and it was sustained from the Christic consciousness. So I have talked in other videos about the Christic consciousness, the Christic grid, which merely is the particle of light. And when we assume that we have a light body, and that when we connect with that body, then we're capable to transform our reality from the quantum field, from the holographic field, and connect with higher levels of consciousness. However, when it comes to the matter, then it could get more complex. Why? Because when we are talking about unfolding our reality from that field, from that level of consciousness, then our reality, all our bodies shall be aligned. And when we are communing in a reality where the conscious collective exhales and inhales separation, then that can get to influence our electromagnetic field. Why? Because we are coexisting in this reality. So how can we shift this? Unifying ourselves so strongly in order that we will see that unified history outside. So this is where the process of unified and unifying comes. Because if I'm mentioning that what we can do is unify ourselves first, is that process of remembering that we are unified to everything. So it could be considered that we are unifying ourselves. We are remembering that we are already unified. And as Osiris myth, as Isis comes and unifies Osiris, that's the human process where the feminine energy within every human, which is the potential energy, comes to unify all aspects, all elements of the matter in order to bring and give to ourselves this huge rebirth. So now, through this path of Omnivision, ever since I initiated this path, the main focus of it has been to unify, to acknowledge oneself as a unified consciousness that inhabits everywhere, and that everything that I get to see is an extension of myself. So that's acknowledging ourselves as multidimensional beings, as a cosmic race. And that will lead us to these ancient civilizations, that they had such in superb technology and spirit and science of the spirit, because they were unified consciousness, bringing themselves into this planet in order to align it to the center of the universe, to the center of the galaxy, and to ascend into a higher or a more evolved race. And this is what we are going through right now. This is what we are facing. This is what we are embodying as a humanity. And to get there, one of the proposals that I am bringing into this field of consciousness, of course, is assuming ourselves as a unified consciousness. And one of the ways is by bringing together all the codes, all the ancient codes, all the primordial codes that were given in the ancient civilizations, and find a point of communion in between them. How can this influence positively my reality? Well, when I assume that everything is an extension of myself, uh, hold on just a second. Okay, thank you. When I assume that everything is an extension of myself, then I know that I got to see specific codes because they are showing something to me. You can say, okay, yes, I'm looking at an Atlantean cross, I'm looking at an Ankh, a key of life. So it's beautiful. So what? It's an ancient code. Good for you. Yes. And another way to see it, to look at it, is that why am I looking at this right now? Why am I showing to myself this? Because we are beings experiencing ourselves and giving us a feedback through the reality that we see in infinite forms, in infinite ways, because our level of creativity is infinite. So now that we have been unifying codes, ancient codes, specifically at this moment, Egyptian codes and Mayan codes, which is related to the trip that we will be having in October, the 14th of October, to celebrate the annular solar eclipse, is because, as it is of common knowledge, Mayans and Egyptians were civilizations that were pretty connected. Not only these two, all civilizations were connected. However, we are specifically targeting now in this two because of many reasons. And one of this is that what humanity is facing at this moment is related to time, to the acknowledgement of what time really is as a constant, as a solo constant with space, being space time. And how can we get to do this in a more daily basis? Well, syncing ourselves to the true rhythm of nature, our own nature, and stop nourishing time systems that are linear and that are separating ourselves from our own nature. And this is one of the big differences that existed in ancient civilizations, that they were pretty synced to the true rhythm, to the true cosmic pulse. Therefore, their evolution was in more resonance and in coherence to the universe, because they were not pouring their energy in programs and information that which main purpose is to separate. They were focused and leading their energy to keep nourishing the unification that is imminent and that is inherent in the universe. Therefore, things like free energy and like the handling the gravitational field was something quite possible and present because they were focusing their energy in the unification and not in the separation. So when humanity started creating specific concepts in order to classify the information, well, such as religion, in institution and economy and so forth, then that reality started to separate and to amplify the separation within the hemisphere, the brain hemispheres, because everything is a reflection. Then again, what is within is without, what is above is below. So if we believe in a reality that is separated, then what it's showing is a separation within. So every time we come to acknowledge the unified codes that there have been all the time, and that it's time now to be aware of them, then the more we are enriching the fullness, the wholeness within, the wholeness within. And that will generate a positive impact within our capability to handle life, to serve the quantum, and to be capable to give more responsible responses, responsibility, the ability to respond, in order, and as and as an effect of our choices, and then assume all our power. So what I will be sharing, I have been sharing in media a lot of codes that we have been preparing. However, soon it will take another, a more specific path to specific codes that nowadays are fundamental to understand how reality unfolds. And these codes, again, have been present in all ancient cultures. Nevertheless, we will be focusing now in Mayans and Egyptians because of what we will be fully igniting by the annular solar eclipse on the 14th of October. That's the main reason of the trip. Because as we have seen in the crop circle, and the most recent one, the cube, and different translations to it, all of them accurate, again, unified consciousness. And one of the proposals that I have perceived, well, one of the messages that I have perceived and that I am conveying is the relation to time and the cube, to space-time, the continuum of space-time and the cube as artifacts that, as I have mentioned in other videos, are underground and that were settled by these ancient cultures and that were guarded by these ancient cultures until the moment arrived. And the moment is now. So what does these cubes do? Well, these cubes, as I mentioned, are related to the management of the continuum of space-time, and pretty related to the arcs as well. And it's not only about the cube, it's also about the sphere. And it's also about the pyramidal structures that connect them all through the water interface. So this is a very important trip because not only we will be connecting with the codes, the unified history from the Mayans and Egyptians, and how all these encrypted connection to the stars, to the astronomy, and were so important at that period, at that stage of evolution, but also how these artifacts located in specific parts of the planet from the hybrid eclipse to the eclipse on the 14th of October, we'll have reached the whole gateway of 7 months, and we'll be ready to start, let's say, moving and connected to the Earth's core, because it was all known that the Earth will be going through a specific evolution of pulse shifting, energetic pulse shifting, and therefore there were measures taken for when this moment arrived. And as I said, this moment is happening already. So, and this is something very interesting, because now, how could we relate the cube? If I had mentioned in the beginning, like every code taken innerly, how would the cube reach that inner aspect? And that's by the brain. We have a cube within our brain, and that's how we access to this reality. I mean, a holographic cube. And this is how we access to this reality, connecting with other points in the brain. And when we know how to use it, then we are capable to be more in alignment to all this procedure that is happening. And the most important message of all, when I call about that we already are, and that we are just remembering, bringing the parts together of ourselves, this leads to the kids, to our children, to our seeds. They already are. We are in the process of depuration of programs that were sustaining a reality that in that moment was necessary for the polarization and the integration of all in order to get to the center. And now that we know that, acknowledging that the kids are already that wisdom that we are trying to restore within, then it's so important to remember through them that we already are. We're just passing and transcending that process of incurrent amnesia in order to be. And that when you can say how all this information, knowing and connecting with all these codes, and this is for this and this is for that, how can that information soothe me instead of making this reality chaotic? When we remember everything moves through fractals, then the procedure is more simple. Then, when we assume that this is an inherent nature to remember, so we don't have to make an effort maybe in the beginning, then, as in everything, then it will come naturally, remembering. And this is what kids do, because we are to find ourselves in the history, not get lost in the history. And this level of simplicity and impeccability with the truth within makes it simpler. So, for instance, when we see at all these ancient cultures, at what moment they became separate, it was because trying to fractalize by separating, forgetting that all fractals are connected to one source. So yes, we have religion, and we have plenty of religions. yet each one of them is separate to one another. No, they're talking about the same essence. So yes, they're different, however they are one. And also about politics, and also about economy, and also about and so forth. So in the end, and in the beginning is the end, and the end is the beginning, we come to realize that the more we accept and assume that standing up for one belief will stand out ourselves from nourishing from other beliefs. And that acknowledging is not being, identifying is becoming into role play in the novel, and then being. Acknowledging is just recognizing that the information is within, and we can access to that information anytime we choose and in the way that we choose. That's also another thing that kids show to us. They are at one moment like this and another one like that, and they are not conflicted or don't get conflicted because before they were like this and now they are like in another way. They just are. They are experiencing themselves from love, because that's the capability to alchemize an event into only past, and past is not present. Past is gone, and what we have now is the present, what we choose to be right here, right now, and we can be anything and everything. We are capable to create any form of reality that we choose to. We shall just believe in ourselves and be responsible enough for our choices in order to generate more and more and more coherent choices and responses to what we truly are, to who we truly are. So it's going to be very exciting, to continue to be very exciting, what we are preparing for this trip to Mexico in October, and to connect with all this unified history and all these ancient codes, and see how each code could relate to myself, to my physical body, to my reality, and how I could use it to evolve in a simpler form and more connected to love. And by this, I don't mean that life is meant to be all the time consciously unified. However, choosing to acknowledge this and do whatever it takes at every moment from a humble spot, from a humble space, and give ourselves the best of ourselves, everything that we can, in order to be in that coherence. That is amazing, and that is already generating an impact in reality, because we came to be only about studying information. However, information is just information without embodying it. When we study, or when we remember, as how I do, the information, and then we apply it to ourselves, then we are not just being information from here to here. We are fully being the information, inhabiting it, and then releasing it, and then another. However, when we limit ourselves just from here to here, that's when we get to identify, because we're not from here. And then we end up identifying into the novel and getting lost in all this information because there is no comprehension to the essence of it. It's just defending an idea, a belief, a concept, and limiting to it. And this is life itself. This is not just about ancient codes. This is life. Every day, we are given the choice to stay from here to here or come to fully embody and come from a comprehension space and transform whatever needs to be transformed. When we assume that anything is separated from me, everything is an extension of myself, and I am an extension of everything. So how I choose to be today at this moment, what information I choose to keep within me in order to fortify the links that are present in my life and that enrichen myself to my heart in order to be from the myself to the I am. What kind of bonds in my life, the situations I do, what I do, the relations I am in, what shows to me the presence of love. And that doesn't mean they have to be perfect, because we are all in the process of experiencing ourselves. However, when we are from a receptive space and capable to assume that what I am looking in my reality is a reflection of myself, then I come to be able to transform whatever is meant to be transformed and to nourish whatever it's meant to be nourished, and sustaining what worth the effort to be sustained. Because in the end, whatever we are facing is the love within or the fear within, and what we choose to embody today. Thank you for watching this video, and if you're interested in knowing more about the trip that we will be having in October, write to the mail that I will put in the description below. Thank you.